So perhaps you could give me a very quick background as what your life in film has been.
Well, I've almost always been making movies. I made my first little short film with my dad in our living room when I was 5 years old, with little Pirates of the Caribbean action figures. And I just kept making movies that whole time, I guess. And I made movies all throughout high school, which is where I met a lot of the people that I made Face the Music with. And now I guess I'm taking it just a little more seriously is the only difference. So, yeah.
And shall we jump straight to Face the Music then? And perhaps you could tell me a little bit about how the idea for the film arrived?
Sure. I have to go back a little bit. It's been a while since I wrote it. But it started really only with one or two images, and then I wrote the movie around those images. I remember seeing, for example, shows up in the movie as a blind woman without oars in a skiff, just sort of drifting in the water. And then I saw 4 musicians on a bridge, playing music above a river. And it started with those things, and it took a while. I think it took until even the second draft before it had any sort of a thread running through it. So it just started with those handful of images, and then I slowly connected them over time until I had a movie that I was satisfied with, and I showed it to some of the people that I've collaborated with before, and they liked it, and so we said, well.
I would say it's quite a surreal movie, very unusual, and the audience has to work to try to decide what it's about for themselves. Is this your preferred style, or did it come out of those images?
I think it is probably my preferred style, judging by, because I haven't released any other movies, but I'm working on 2 other ones, and both of those, they aren't as vague, I guess, or as surreal as Face the Music is, but they've all got an element of ambiguity. They've all got sort of an atmosphere of there's a creepy atmosphere to all of them that sort of seeps through. So it's not intentional. I guess it just happens. So is that what style is? I don't know.
Probably.
Yeah.
The actual events in the film, my idea behind them, and I'd like to throw them at you and see how you react and whether you feel I'm close to the images that you had and the ideas that you had. It felt to me like it was a journey through life.
Yes.
Would you say yes?
Absolutely. Shooting it, we all had slightly different ideas. Some saw it as, more of, because it's a journey down a river, and some people read it as the river Styx, which is more like the river of death. But in my mind, it's the river of life. It's not a movie that works in analogies. It's got metaphors, but it doesn't have any analogies in it. It's not a one-to-one to anything specific. It is really a tactile movie. That was what we were going for. We wanted everything to have a texture and to have it. We wanted to mix this very real feeling of water getting in underneath your clothes, or sand in your hair, or flies on your face, with these magical realism elements. But the river of life is a good way to think about it.
And filming on a river, the whole film takes place on the river.
Yes.
It's not an easy choice for your first big venture.
No, I mean, why not be overambitious if you can, right? It worked out very well, and I'm proud that there's any continuity to it whatsoever, because while shooting it, we didn't think there was going to be. The first day of shooting, we were out there, and we realized, it's a little windy today, which meant all the boats just started drifting, because we had 4 boats. We had one character in one boat, one character in another boat, and then 2 crew boats that were kind of circling, and one with the camera. And they were all just kind of drifting, and we tried anchoring them down, and that didn't work because it was too deep. So there was a lot of logistical issues.
Okay.
And we were a bit nervous that it wasn't going to pan out and that it wasn't going to have any it wasn't going to feel coherent whatsoever. Thankfully, it does, at least to some degree.
And a very big part of the film is music.
Yes.
In the title and in various points throughout the film.
Absolutely.
And is that part of your background?
No, I wouldn't say so. I think the movie is inspired. I'm Jewish, and the movie is inspired a little bit by klezmer music, with the musicians that show up. But it isn't a part of my background or anything like that. I guess it is something that I enjoy using, and I have a very strong relationship with music in that way. I've always sort of, Judaism as a religion has a lot of singing, and singing as a communal experience, and that's always been very powerful for me. And I think music is a very powerful tool in movies as well. So I guess that's an answer.
Okay. And the soundtrack.
Yes.
Very, very complex and multi-layered. Mm-hmm. And how did that come about? Why did you decide you needed that kind of soundtrack? My friend Isaac, who wrote the music and who was going to be with me here in Birmingham, is going to be happy to hear that all those lovely words about it. I guess it started really with, I had an idea that I wanted all the music in the movie to be cello. That I only wanted cello because it's the instrument that sounds the most like the human voice. And there is cello in the movie. The main theme is just cello, but we sort of expanded it a little bit from there. And I guess that's all there is to it. We strive to create a very specific sort of eerie, but as I said, a tactile atmosphere with it. So we knew all the instruments in the movie needed to be real. So there was a lot of hubbub and a lot of problems with recording that during the pandemic. Isaac lives in a completely different part of Sweden than the rest of us, so we had to go to people's houses and record and have him on FaceTime to direct them in how they were going to play the accordion and stuff like that. But it worked out, and I think the music is wonderful in the movie. I agree, yes. The characters are not all real. You have these there's a little hand that comes out at one point, which is not a human hand, no. And you have the musicians at the end. So how did they become part of the film?
Well, this is going to break movie magic a little bit, because originally they were supposed to be a real band, and we had a real band signed up to do it, to have four klezmer musicians stand and play at the end of the movie. But they couldn't make it, and so I called another band, and they were set to do it, but they couldn't make it. And so we just shot what we could at the time, and then afterwards I called up my closest collaborator, Elliot Nylin is his name, and I said, okay, hear me out, but what do you think about stop motion? And he didn't say no, so we tried it, and it worked out. I think it made the movie, to be honest, to have those stop motion dolls in it. And my friend Stella made them, and I have one of them in my bookshelf still, the little drummer guy. And I'm really happy that it turned out the way it did, but it wasn't the intention from the beginning.
It hadn't occurred to me that these were quite tiny. I thought of them as being human-sized, right. But that's fine. Can I jump to the ending and ask you, in your opinion, is it a positive ending or a negative ending?
Neither and both. This gets into my own, the personal connection I have to the story, because if you look at it like the river of life, and he's sort of always chasing this lofty goal at the end of it, that he doesn't really know what it is, but he's very stressed to get there. And he seems very anxious to get there, but at the end, he turns instead, and he stops and listens to the music. And I guess for me, the movie is a little bit about high school and trying to figure out what you want to do with your life, because people tell you, oh, you've got to have goals and you've got to know what you're trying to find and you've got to work for it and you can't be distracted. And at the end, he chooses to be distracted, and I guess it ends his journey, and he goes deaf, arguably, at the end. But to me, he looks pretty happy, doesn't he?
He definitely smiles at the end, yes. I was a little bit worried about the woman he met before he turned off to the music, because she warned him against it.
Yeah. I mean, yes.
All right. So it was still his choice. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
He made a choice independently. Some of the, you see the boat full of people in the middle of the movie, in the big sort of center sequence, trying to go back. I don't know. Yeah. There are many sort of interesting images that are all clashing together, but they work to form a whole, I think, or I hope.
Well, a Diamond Award.
Yeah.
What more can I say? One quick question about the title.
Sure.
Face the music.
Yeah.
In normal English, the way we would use that phrase, face the music, is you have to face up to something you've done wrong. Is that how you saw the title?
I mean, that is an element of it, absolutely. There is a Swedish title as well, but it really originated with the English title, because I think it's a wonderful turn of phrase, and that's it really. And I guess the movie examines what it is to face up, even if you do it intentionally or not.
Okay, great. That's fascinating to find out more about the background to the film. Can I just finish off by asking what next for you?
Sure. I have another movie that I'm working on that's in post-production right now that's called Reflexes, that will be coming out at some point. And I'm actually shooting my third film in about 2 weeks, and it's called A Cork Underwater.
More water.
Yes, that's true. That's a comment I've gotten a lot of times from both the crew and from people who've watched and read the scripts that I write, that there's always water. And there is. Don't ask me why.
So they're probably thinking, not again.
Yeah.
Okay, well, many congratulations.
Thank you.
I hope you lots of success in the future.
Oh, thank you.